Hi, this is the Be Well with Michelle Greenwell podcast. Our heartwarming conversation is designed to lift you on your wellness journey. Grab your cup of tea and enjoy the podcast. Welcome everyone to the Be Well with Michelle Greenwell podcast. And it's my pleasure today to introduce you to Laurin Wittig. And she's an intuitive energy worker, transformational mentor, founder of the HeartLight Wellness and the HeartLight Wise Women Circles, and the host of Curiously Wise, a podcast that shares practical spirituality in action. And she's also an award-winning author. Laurin's non-traditional journey from lots of health issues to robust well-being awakened her to her own healing gifts and illuminated a passion to assist others to travel their path in this lifetime with less pain and a deeper understanding of themselves and the world that is around them. And she illuminates the light within and guides people on their own journey to greater ease and joy. So hence, we're calling this episode Lighting Your Life Light. So here's a couple things about clients that Laurin's had that I thought were really interesting when I came across this. So thank you for the exceptional care you provided during my healing sessions. My experience was amazing. Your energy is uplifting, positive, and motivating, creating a comfortable space for open conversations about my life and journey. The valuable knowledge you shared has become a guiding light for me, and I eagerly anticipate future sessions. You're truly amazing, and I'm thankful for the positive impact you've had on my well-being. And this one here is about your podcast. She's a genuine wise woman and one of the most caring people I've come to know through this world of podcasting. That's an interesting phrase to put there. Her perspectives bring reassurance and know-how. And whether you want to learn how to take steps to bring spirit into your life more, or you want to feel like you're in a place where you belong, I think you will enjoy Laurin and her guests on the Curiously Wise. So Laurin, thank you for coming to share in this conversation today. And I hope that sheds a light for people of where our conversation can go.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I always love having conversations with you. I know we haven't known each other very long, but you are also a wise woman, and she was on my podcast last week. But you taught me a couple of things already that I'm using daily and just in our little conversation. So I know this is going to be a good conversation between two very wise women.
I love it. And it's interesting because you think wise women and you think about the grandmothers, right? And then it's like, oh, yeah, I guess I am there.
I know.
To the grandmother part. I wasn't anticipating the wise part. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And when I first started the Wise Women Circle, it was pre-pandemic. And my tagline was, and all women are wise. And because I think we all have different wisdom at different times. And so, but yeah, as you get older, it's a little bit easier to embrace that wisdom and own it, because yeah, that's the important part.
Yeah. And I think it's hard for us to really own some of those pieces. Yeah. Okay. Before we dive in, because I know you and I are going to just take off, what tea have you brought today to the conversation?
I am drinking Tulsi Sweet Rose, because I just felt like roses to me are, first of all, my dad always grew roses. So I grew up with super fragrant roses. Wherever we moved, he always planted roses first. So it always reminds me of my dad, who I miss. But it's also just the sweetness of life to me. And we're just here right on the cusp of summer and Memorial Day weekend here in the US. And I just want to remember the sweetness of summer, because I kind of get lost in the humidity sometimes.
So we had that humidity, and it was a start to, it was like summer yesterday for us.
Yes, here too. Yeah. We went from that kind of nice, cool humidity, the dew point was low, to I remember this blanket of moisture.
Yeah, it has
pull the shorts out. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So I want to share. I'm really interested in the blend that you chose, because that's really interesting. And the rose is just so powerful, and it ended up in quite a few of the blends that I've created, just because of its power, and its color too, because it comes in so many colors.
Yeah.
changes the way the tea looks, which is also interesting. So,
sweet. Yeah.
All right. So on behalf of the Cape Breton Tea Company, I want to share with you a little bit about how we use tea within the podcast to help transition. So Lauren's picked the tea that she feels most comfortable with. And I went to a tea from the Intention series, which is Time Passages. And this one I have had, well, it's been in the series for over 10 years. And it also is like a best friend. So when I go to the cupboard, it's one that appears often in the wintertime. But right now, with what's coming up, like you said, with the weather and going back and forth, sometimes that's a real challenge for lung. And so this one is part of the metal element and supports lung and large intestine. And typically, if we're looking at metal element, it's the emotions of grief, guilt, and regret. So I wanted to bring that one forward because this tea is kind of, I was trying to describe it as I was sipping it yesterday, and it's a softness, but it's on the inside. So as we were talking about wise women, it's bringing the ownership of that inside and then sitting with it and feeling what it feels like. So if people can understand that. And so the two herbs that I wanted to bring forward today, one is thyme. And thyme, we throw it into dinner and we throw it into the pasta sauce. But its essence is about courage. And so as we're talking about wise women, is courage to take on that label and the courage to really reflect on what wisdom have you gathered in your lifetime. And then the second part is in this blend, there's many ingredients in it, but I chose cassia as the second one. And so this one is about releasing the suppression of feelings of being unworthy.
Oh,
so interesting. We started by talking about wise because do we have the knowledge? Do we have the wisdom? Do we have the ability to pass it forward? But when you put it together with courage, then that gives you the opportunity to transition yourself from those unworthy thoughts or those monkey thoughts of all the self-doubt and criticism and move that with a courage forward. And so when people are thinking about why they want to choose a tea, I just wanted to shed a light on how the relationship between the herbs within the blends that we create have this ability to transform us when we sip on them. So, okay, so with that, I wanted to also share, there's several affirmations on this one on the package, and this is the one I chose for today. I release the need to hold regret and guilt within the body and rejuvenate with honesty and compassion for all that is possible in my life. So with that, as we start the conversation and we lead people through a healing as they're listening, cheers to you and thank you so much, Laurin, for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I love that tea.
And you have on your mug, what's the flower on the outside?
I don't know. It's just pretty. Somebody gave me a whole set of these with different flowers and plants on them years ago. And I don't pull them out very often because they're a little smaller than I like. But I'm not sure what that is. If it were yellow, I'd almost think it was a chamomile.
Yeah, but it's
I'm not sure.
purpley white. Yeah.
Not sure.
I have.
I looked at two and went, "Ooh, this one." That's how I pick things.
I have Colton McDonnell's pottery. Colton is a musician here in Cape Breton, and this is the Cape Breton Islands symbol, which he left the glaze off of, so you get the tan of the soil that would be here. This one is always lovely to hold in my hand.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It looks like it's one of those shapes that you can really, like in the wintertime, kind of cozy up with.
Yeah. And then if you start to think about, okay, where is my courage and how do I put that with my wisdom? And then it's like, oh, that's what my hands hold on to.
Yeah.
And then you can feel that. Well, actually, I'm feeling that go right into the heart, just as I said that. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Okay, so let's dive into your wisdom, because I was looking as I was going through your website and getting to know more about some of the intricate pieces of what you do. You have set yourself up in an interesting way because you have 4 ways that you interact with people. And that is through circles, sessions, podcasting, and novels. And that's not a list that just anybody can have.
True. Kind of eclectic.
But the other part is the bioenergetic wellness formula that I worked on when I was doing my dissertation work. You actually have incorporated it within the way that you set everything up with those 4 points. So I didn't know if you knew that.
I didn't. I am so intuitive. I just, I trust what comes through me. So, but that's very cool. That's interesting.
Yeah. And the only piece that wouldn't be there from the formula is intuition. But if somebody was to engage with you through the different ways that you have set everything up for them to gain access to the wisdom that you have and how you can share knowledge, then their intuitive ability is going to be advanced. So it's an interesting full package. So congratulations on that. I think that's so cool.
I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back for getting that one right.
So I wanted to talk a little bit of, just because of the way you set that up, of how you support the goals and intentions of your clients. Could be students, listeners, could be your readers. Mm-hmm. What do you anticipate about all of them in the way that you put that together?
Well, first of all, I have to say I put that together over a long period of time. My last novel came out in 2015, so it's there were 6 of them all together. So it's been a long journey. Mm-hmm. So what do I anticipate about them? I know that they all have a huge heart. So I know that that's going to be an area, particularly when they're new clients with me, that we have to pay attention to, because that tends to be where the hurt has come in. And I often, most of the people that find me as healing clients are in pain of some sort, usually physical pain. We're stubborn people. We're stubborn human beings. We will wait until we can't take the pain anymore and nothing is helping us to get rid of it before we go, okay, well, maybe there's some other way to deal with this. Mm-hmm. And that's where people like, you and I come in. But so I know that they're going to have heart pain. I know that they're going to be open, but maybe not aware of working, what energy is and sort of the unseen part of the world we live in. And so I know when I have especially a new client, I always ask, have you worked with an energy worker before? And most have not. So I have to do a lot of teaching in those first few sessions together, because I feel energy, I channel, I work with spirit guides. I have all of these ways that I have collected over the years to keep me connected to, what I think of as the unseen world. And it's very real to me now. But I always have to remember to kind of come back to basics. So I have to come back to beginner's mind. And so I always start off with, I know there's going to be some heart work that we need to do. And I know I need to be back in beginner's mind. I also know that my role is not to fix it. It's to help. It's to facilitate. It's to guide. And I have been called an earth angel by one of my clients before. So that's kind of a perfect kind of image for me to hold, that I need to be here to hold space to, and to allow them to relax enough to really dig into those things that we don't want to look at. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that one of my personal superpowers is to be vulnerable. And it's just out there. But by doing that, by sharing my vulnerable moments, that also opens up a door for them to share theirs. Mm-hmm. So it's very much I don't know. I feel like my role is to hold them in a safe space for a while. And in the meantime, we're moving things, we're shifting energy, we're teaching. So all of that comes in, and I do it intuitively. So each person is going to, start in a slightly different place, obviously, but that's what I know I need to anticipate for my role in this journey. And it's such an honor to help people do that. I have so many people who've helped me on my journey in this lifetime, and frankly, a lot of other ones. And so it's just such a, for me, it's very fulfilling to be able to kind of pay back and hold that same kind of space. It's an honor. So I really enjoy doing that work. Now with the women's circles, it's much more direct. we're there. I started the first one because I needed to have a safe place to talk about the crap that was going on in my life at the time, and I wasn't looking for anybody to fix it, or I just needed to vent, basically. And so I started this women's circle, and turns out there were a lot of other women who needed the same thing. So there we really built a community, and I did that very purposefully in some ceremony at the beginning and the ending of the circles, the formal part, but we always had time beforehand where we could get caught up with each other in a more informal way. We inevitably ended up hanging out for another 20, 30 minutes after the circle was over, because these groups of friends began to form. And everybody was friendly, but some of my best friends came out of that group, the people that are still in my support circle, kind of thing. And I've just I'm in the middle of the first circle I've run since the pandemic. And we're doing it online, so it's a bit new for me. But in that one, it's a very small group, and there's a lot of teaching and healing that I'm bringing into that. So it's not just, I need to talk about this, because frankly, I've talked about most of what I need to at this point. It's where the wisdom comes from. This is one of my things I say a lot, is you can let go of the pain, but you get to keep the wisdom. And so, so that's something I say a lot. But so in this particular one, it's really nice because it's very intimate, because it's such a small group. And I purposely decided to bring in the teaching and the healing. So I'm kind of doing what I do with a new client, but we're doing it in a group setting. So that's creating community. And I love that. I think as women, we crave community. We're kind of designed for that. The books you can do on your own, you can go get immersed in this. I write a lot. 4 of the 6 novels I wrote have energetic stuff going on in. But the very first one has a healer who heals with her hands and energy, which is what I do. And I didn't know I could do that when I wrote that book. So those are, if you want to go curl up in a chair and just be in your own little immersive world, you can do that. And then the podcasting. I adore doing the podcasting because I get to talk to all kinds of really interesting people like Michelle, and we bring forth what our wisdom is, and we talk about what we do. We share, our own journeys, and which I think is really important, because if you are in the midst of a hard part of your journey, it's hard to know that there's a way out, or that there is something else waiting. And I know, so that's part of where me being vulnerable is really helpful, because I can share the craptastic life I lived when I was younger, So I think that's how I bring people in different ways, but all of them are with the idea of supporting their journey, helping them heal things that are ready to heal, and just being available, from the heart, not from an ego place. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm trying to help you move through that kind of attitude. So I hope that answers it. That was kind of long.
Yeah. Oh, you have such a wonderful way of expressing everything. So I was just thinking about the first interesting piece was that, yes, for those of us that have been on this journey of healing and discovery for a while, we do live in that energy world. And so for a lot of people, if they're just walking into it for the first time, it can be daunting and overwhelming with all the pieces, and the potential that's out there is incredible.
Yeah.
And when they see that for the first time, being able to take it, for us to be able to take it back to that very first step, and what was it like for us in our first discoveries, and then to be able to walk in that space. That's really interesting, because I think it gets forgotten because we're so immersed in it.
Yeah.
But for those people that are listening, and maybe it is their initial start, and they're thinking, who would I reach out to, and how would I reach out, and what would happen? What you said, interestingly, with the intuition, was that you wrote that book about the hand healing before you knew how to do it.
Yeah.
And so as people are listening, the idea of intuition is that we very often have these intuitive hits all the way through. We don't recognize them because we don't know what we're looking for. But when we trust in them and we accept and just go along with whatever comes to us, those kinds of hits can produce incredible results for us.
Yeah.
And so the idea of participating in these healing sessions, whether it's individual or group, means that people have the opportunity to tie into that intuition. And even though they might not feel they're intuitive, they don't sense anything, they don't hear anything, they don't get visions of anything, and they just think, I don't have that. You do. And as soon as you start playing in this field, you just don't know how it's coming to you until you find the ways to read those messages.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you can look backwards and see where, I did. That word. Okay. Now I see the pattern, and I have been doing this all along. But you're right. We're not taught about it. It's, and frankly, women's intuition is kind of poo-pooed, by the cultures. And so we don't trust it. And that trust is something I do work on a lot with everybody I come into contact with, is helping to validate that what they are experiencing is real. And so that I find is very important for people to move on the journey as they're learning, as they're maybe opening up to new gifts, to new awarenesses, is that you have to be able to trust it, right? And it's hard to do at first because you think, oh, I'm just making it up. My imagination is running wild.
Yeah.
So I wrote books, like, well, let's use that imagination and see what happens. And it was a big step on my journey to where I am now. So yeah,
that's interesting. And then it also provides you with this interesting platform to get other people into that same space, because by reading that book, they're able to begin the transitionary piece, which a lot of people don't have that opportunity. I have decks of cards and I have some introductory books, but they're energy tools. They're not get yourself into a story and become the character, or live out that fantasy. And it's just such a freeing way to be able to engage with the activities.
Yeah. And that's the magic of books. I mean, all books, it's fiction, at least. It's you get to try on different lifetimes, different talents, different ways of interacting with people. And it's, I mean, I've been a bookophile since I was 4, maybe earlier than that, because my dad used to read to me every night in bed. So, so it was kind of a natural progression, I suppose, but not one I ever expected to do or excel at. So it was kind of following my intuition.
Wow. When you're looking at the one-on-one sessions with clients, what are the ways that you help them discover their personal awareness?
One of the really interesting ways that happens is I get information as I'm working with somebody. I'm working with their energy, but at the same time, I'm connected with my guides. I'm connected with their guides. I invite their guides to work through me if that is in the benefit and the highest good of the person. And so often I get these weird little knowings, I call them. Frequently, it's a lyric from a song. It's usually never a song that I've heard recently. So it's like no reason that it should pop up into my head. But I don't know what that means to the person on the table. I've learned that it's important because it's happened enough where I go, hey, here's what I heard. Does that mean anything to you? And it's like, oh my God, yes. So by doing that, I'm validating for them that there is information that they have within them that is waiting to be seen. And I think that opens their curiosity. And for me, it's the name of my podcast is Curiously Wise. Thank you, guides. They gave it to me. But curiosity is so important. And I think as we get to be adults, a lot of times we're kind of, especially at least in the US school system, you're kind of, narrowed down to being curious about one thing. And, if you go to university, what's your major, And we forget to have that, again, beginner's mind curiosity. You look at a toddler who's just discovering the world, and man, they're open to everything. And so I think by me being able to bring forth things for people that I don't understand, but I trust that they're important, and talk about it with them so they can put it all together, first of all, it brings whatever that issue is up into, I call it bringing it up into the light where we can see it, we can talk about it, we can process it. And that, I think, then begins to get them curious about, what else am I carrying around in me? What else have I heard that I haven't paid attention to? I talk a lot with my new clients about guides and about signs, because I get signs all the time, but I always have. I just didn't know they were signs. It's like, so yeah. So I think there's a lot of with me working with them and teaching them about guides and teaching them about things. And I have some different experiences that I facilitate so you can meet your guides in a more interactive way, a more clear way. But they start to get curious. And it's not just curious about what else is out there, but is what else am I carrying around in me that I don't want to carry anymore? And now they found themselves also in a supportive place with me and their guides. So it's a little less scary to dig into some of those. So I think it really, it opens up I don't know if it's intuition so much as it opens up that introspection. And that's where our intuition is coming from, those things inside anyway, So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about if people go for one-on-one sessions with whomever they decide they want to connect with, it's very often, it's because we've been set up by the medical model. I'm going to go in with my ailments, and then you're going to address them, and then you're going to give me whatever it is I need in order to fix it. And so it's a one of. But what you're describing isn't a one of, which is really interesting because you're talking about a complete journey. So a person says, all right, I'm done with dealing with this pain, and I'm going to do something different. I'm not going to try the avenues that haven't worked for me. I'm going to go somewhere else. And instead of picking one spot and then picking another spot. So a lot of people will bubble bath, jump into the tub. That's a good relaxing thing. Candles, that'd be a good relaxing thing. I'm going to go watch a movie. That's great. And then I'm going to go have a massage, and maybe I'll see the chiropractor and pick up some aromatherapy as an example. Right. But they're doing the one-ofs. But what you're really saying is when you bring them into your community, you know where to start them at the beginning of that journey, and you know how to release the techniques that they're going to need as they come through that journey. And you create the road for them so that they don't have to continue to do the one-ofs, hoping they'll find a road.
That's amazing. I've never looked at it that way, but that is exactly how I approached my own journey. And I guess so I've just used that as a model. Again, intuitively. I'm so freaking intuitive. My logic mind is like, I'm on vacation, But thank you for showing that to me, because that's really, it's a beautiful way of working, and it is how I work. It's just, I hadn't put it together like that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
See, you're a wise woman.
Well, and I think about, someone will come to visit me for a one-on-one, and I really enjoy group. I do one-on-one sessions, which I do adore them. But what happens is they come for that one piece, you solve it. And the thing about working with energy too is they don't actually remember that they even had the problem. They came to visit me, but most of the time they can't remember why, because if you solve it, it's just gone, and it's no longer reflective in any vibrational way within their life, and it's gone. Yeah. So, and if they had a sore foot, it's no longer sore, so it just disappears, and they just walk like they've wanted to walk. So then there isn't really a need for them to come back because it was solved. Yet there's another layer there, and something else is going to appear, right? Yep. And so they'll struggle with that for a while until they decide, oh, now I should probably do something about that. And so you really are showing how even the person, as they're choosing what's that next thing they want to do, what kind of thing do you want? Do you want to be doing the one-ofs, trying to find the right path, and of course, waiting till the pain gets enough in the next signal and the
Right.
next signal?
Yeah.
Or do you really want to start that journey and say, okay, who do I want to study with and spend time with? And who has a community that I really feel connected to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly how I started as the one ofs. I did a little acupuncture, and then I got connected with a healer who helped me get rid of asthma in a session. you know so a few years later, when I ended up in the ICU trying to get allergy testing done, not even the shots but the testing, went into anaphylaxis and ended up in the ICU. I didn't think to go back to this wonderful healer who had been so great for me. My best friend had to say, you had a good result with her with that thing. I bet she could help you with this thing. I'm like, of course. And I think
Yeah.
that is when I started stopping doing the one-ofs. I was looking for teachers, really,
Mhm.
and sort of would go through whatever they could teach me. And that was always healing work. So, you're getting healing as you're learning it too. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, so it is a journey. And I think that's the hardest part, because for clients, I should finish my thought there. We're so in the medical system where you go to the doctor, you get a pill, it takes the pain away. Now, you might get addicted to the pill, but you don't have the pain anymore, right? You get a new
Mhm.
problem, and
Mhm.
they give you something else for that. And I watched that happen with my mom. She was on so many medications at the end of her life. It was, yeah. Anyway, but this really, it's a process. It's not a one and done. It's often the idea of peeling back the layers of an onion is used for this kind of work, because somewhere deep down in you is sort of the root cause of whatever is expressing itself physically. And you may have to work through your whole lifetime or multiple lifetimes of things that triggered that reinforced it, that caused whatever. And if you don't do all of that work, it's not going to solve the root cause, and you're going to continue to have maybe other things, but it's still coming from that same source.
Mhm.
And I trade sessions regularly. I've got two teachers that live nearby, and we trade sessions about once a month each. So I still get healing work. And I was on the table a couple of weeks ago, and Deb is the woman I was working with, and she said, "Laurin, I think there's still something here about your mom." And I cracked up. My mom passed in 2019. She had dementia the last 10 years of her life. She was a narcissist. We had a very difficult relationship. So I had done a lot of work around, and every time we get, oh, there's more. Okay. Oh, there's more. But I was determined to get to the end of it. And then 2 weeks ago, when I'm not even thinking about all that old stuff, it's just not an issue anymore. She's like, "Oh, look, here, this thing in your life that you were telling me about 2 weeks ago, this has triggered this little piece. It's just a little," she called it a dust bunny. It's like a little dust bunny. We can clear that quickly. And I'm like, "Sure, let's do that." I laughed because it's like, yeah, there's always more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, we're living beings. So we've collected a lot of stuff over many lifetimes. A lot of us have anyway. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, brought them in
Well,
with me to clear it.
and then the other piece of that is too, yes, you clear out a lot of those pieces because I've done that
Mhm.
same kind of work. But then you have what is the wisdom that comes
Yes.
from all of that. And the transition then to the next place, which is you're no longer trying to fix what was in the past that keeps bringing up all the niggly whatevers,
Hmm.
to the place where you're actually projecting into the future where you want to go, what you want to be doing. And then
Yes.
people are looking at maybe their soul's purpose, but maybe they're just trying to get on track for their business or the way that they're living their life.
Hmm.
And then you start to look at what is the wisdom that keeps coming from those experiences. And
Yes.
that's a whole other
Yes.
translation.
Yes.
Um, so as people are listening, and I'm thinking about if this is the first time you're diving into this information,
Mm.
to realize it seems like a big journey, and it is, but
Mhm.
it's a juicy journey. It's
Yes.
just, it's so rich with information and how you can start as one person here and totally end up as a
Oh,
different
yeah.
kind of person with completely different ambitions, and that process of realizing how you might have been in that one place and where do you really want to go?
Yes.
Yes.
And how do you want to be? How do you want to
Yeah.
be in that new place?
Yeah.
I was miserable and anxious and defensive, and I'm none of those things anymore. I'm happy. I roll with the punches with ease. I can apologize to people when I screw up, because I used to couldn't do that because it would be putting myself in a dangerous position. It's just not an issue anymore.
Yeah.
And some of that is all the healing work. Some of it is practicing that, because there's times where I still go, and then I go, okay, no, just take a breath. This is good. You're not in danger. Nobody's going to hurt you. Sometimes I still have to talk myself through it, but it gets easier each time to react the way I want to, which is, that's interesting. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, it's like,
yeah.
So it is a journey, and it's always going to be a journey to the day we decide to leave this body and move on to whatever we do next. We're always going to be learning. We came here to learn. And some lessons are harder than others. But as you gather that wisdom and you shed the pain, you deal with things better, and you can make choices about how you deal with things. I never thought I could control my emotions, but I've learned I really can choose to react differently, which is such a gift to myself and to my family. So it's worth the journey. It's worth the exploration. It's worth getting curious. What are you dragging behind you that's holding you back? And you don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Let it go and keep the wisdom.
You said something really interesting there, because when the body's in balance and flow, and our emotions just flow. But when we have some kind of a block, then certain emotions show up because the block is there. And so when you said, I can choose my emotion, I was thinking, wow, but you have to be in balance and flow for that.
Yeah.
Right? So anger can pop up. Something didn't go right. My girlfriend was talking about this morning in the kitchen. She was yelling at the Tupperware. And that's when she knew there was too much on her plate, and she needed to take a step back and really bring herself back into grounding and focus. But there was that outburst, and then she could look at it. But the second part is, if you put it into flow, then you can choose how you want to react. And it can be, you do need to use anger, because at this point, somebody needs to change, and they're not going to do it unless, of course, you choose that particular response. But at the same time, you can also choose patience. But you can choose it because you go, okay, what's going to be the most valuable at this moment?
Right. Yeah.
And that's because you've done the work to be in balance and flow. You are where you need to be. And now you have choices, not reaction.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And it's something I have not mastered, but I'm noticing that I do it with more and more ease. And that noticing is important.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
I love these conversations.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was thinking back to the word wisdom. Wow. There's been some really incredible epiphanies of work that we've both been doing for a long time, but to see it in a new context is really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Seriously.
So if what brings you the greatest joy when you're working with the clients and the students that you have?
That's a really good question. It all brings me joy, but I love when somebody has one of those epiphanies, that something comes up, we're talking about it because I'm helping them process, and they suddenly realize, well, maybe I was 3 then, and that was a big deal when I was 3, but it's really not. I don't need to hold on to that anymore. It's like, okay, are you ready to let that go? Well, let's do that. So helping, I love to help. So helping them find those things that are bothering them, holding them back, blocking them, however you might describe it, and release them. Oh, there's nothing better than that. It's just nothing better than that. Then I know that we've done good work and we've gotten to where we needed to do for that piece. There's always going to be other things, but maybe that's where you are for a while, and that's good. And as a client, you don't need more right now. You're going to live with that new change a little bit, let it integrate, let it settle. And then maybe something else will pop up, because it's always the way we work. But then you know that you can come back and you can do something about it. You know, you don't have to live with it or stuff it down in your hips or something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I think that's also the important part too, is taking the time between to figure out what it's meaning to you.
yeah.
Because again, once it's in flow and you've forgotten why you even went, and you forgot what got you there, and the pain's no longer there, what does it mean when the pain's no longer there? And you do need some time to go, oh, I can walk to the post, to the mailbox, and I can go up the steps when I go into town. Simple things like that. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, other things in your world open up, and then you think, oh, I can do all these things. So that space, because I just know sometimes people they'll put several different kinds of sessions in a row and try to stack them, thinking that'll be a good way, but not realizing to leave space. Yes, because the space is really important for the self-discovery piece.
Yes, yeah. You need to be able to observe. I'm always encouraging people to journal. Is I never know what I'm thinking or feeling. All right, this is no longer true. It used to be. I never knew what I was thinking or feeling unless I saw it written down on the page. So I was a massive journaler in my teens and 20s and 30s. When life is good, I don't journal very much. You know? But it's you need time to observe the change and to make some choices. You know, because okay, I'm feeling a lot better. Now I can do this, that, or that. Oh, I'm going to do that. You know, what's going to bring me joy? That's another thing I talk to people about. What's going to bring you joy? Don't do something because it's a job that you needed to do for 2 years and you couldn't get down on your knees to do it. No, pick something fun, you know, or something joyful, and do that first. Then you can get down to the other stuff if you need to. But you need that time to get to know yourself in this new energetic state. Because anytime we move a block out, you know this, then the flow gets better, but it may hit another block. You need to be able to notice that. How are you going to notice that if you don't know where you are right after this thing happened, right? You know, it's like, oh, there's something else. Yeah. So there's a lot of introspection that I think really is a task, not a task, but it's the responsibility of the client. I can't do the introspection for them. I can help bring things up. But if you're not going to do that introspection, you're probably not going to get great results. So.
Yeah. And then you're getting that you had the relief, it worked, but it returns because you didn't spend the time to see what it meant to you, so that it's almost like that space was still sitting there and then it just sucked it back in again.
Old patterns too are, old patterns are comfortable. Yeah. And so sometimes you get such a big shift. I'll say to people who call me or, text me if you need some support because sometimes those really big shifts can really rock your foundation. And so that's something that I do offer as well. Just somebody to listen and validate, but you need that time, you need that space, and you need to learn to get curious about what's going on inside you as much as you get curious about what's going on outside you.
So now I'm thinking about what kind of journey. So somebody's thinking they've listened to us talk and they're thinking, okay, I think I want to start this journey. Do you want to just kind of describe a little bit of the pathway that they would be able to engage in by spending time with you?
Yeah, there's actually, I'm actually completely revisioning this exact thing. What pathway would best serve people? And I'm really, now I'm focusing really on my shamanic work. It's my favorite work that I do. It's called shamanic journeying. I do not call myself a shaman because I don't live the lifestyle, but I have been in other lifetimes and I've studied in this lifetime. And so one of the very first things that I offer people is just a short session where I take you essentially with me on a journey and introduce you to a couple of your guides. And that's all that is. It's just let's activate your guides, activate your relationship with them. And so that's a really easy, quick, simple way to sort of start to get to know that there's other things out there, with me being the go-between, if you would, between the unseen and the seen. And then there's several other things that I can do with the shamanic work, but what would come next really would be to get to come to me as a new client, and I have a 3-session package that I now require, so they don't come one time and not come back. So, and over those 3 sessions, that's when a lot of the teaching and the setting the stage happens. I do, we're obviously working with the energy. I do Reiki for everybody. I work with the chakras a lot at the beginning. One of the lessons I learned as a writer was don't take care of the details. Like, don't figure out what the heroine's eye color is if you don't know who the heroine is yet. So this kind of, you need to get the big picture in place, and then you can get to the details. And I think all healing work really works that way. So that's a good way in for me, because then we get to know each other. The person gets to know how I work. They get me and all of my woo. And from there, then we can talk about, what's next. Maybe they need to go and take that time to sort of, maybe go get curious about things, do a little self-education about, what you've learned so far. And then to come back with when you've got something else that you're ready to work on. And, I've got shamanic things I do with soul retrievals, for instance, which is massively powerful, but I would never do with somebody who is just coming to me for the first time, because it is a massive change usually in your whole system. But it's very powerful. I can introduce you to your power animals. I can do a Q&A with your guides, where you can ask the questions and I can relay the answers, this kind of thing. So there's lots of other pieces that can work around, the energy work, specifically the one-on-one. But the other way is, come get your introduction to your guides, and then join a circle, because there's healing work that happens there. There's teaching work, and you get the community. And so that would be another easy way for somebody to sort of begin to come into what I think of now as my ecosystem, and get a feel for it. And a lot of people are very trepidatious, if that's actually a word, about working with somebody like me, because it's so outside what we've been taught is healthcare, and so it gives them an opportunity to get to know me a little better too. And I think I know my best clients are the ones who have spent some time getting to know me through a circle. Yeah. So, so there's lots of different ways in, but that meeting your guides to me is very important, because it establishes, first of all, that you have support, not just me, you have support, and and I teach you how to, if you're interested, as part of that, I give you a couple of quick tips about how you can begin to work with them in a conscious way. But yeah, I think there's a lot of trust that has to be built there. And those who can come in with an open heart and an open mind are the ones who get the best bang for their buck in terms of their time spent on healing work. Yeah.
I had someone yesterday, I had made a suggestion movement wise for them to do a movement, and they couldn't do it. So it was a complete shutdown.
Yep.
I'm not doing that. And it was a very simple move. So if they were watching the recording, they probably would have said, I can't believe I said I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it was like, I can't do that. I'm not doing that. And that's the end. And so the end of the conversation was just like a complete, I'm stopping here, and that's it.
Yeah.
And from the other side, it's like, if you just turn, that's all you have to do is just turn. What's possible. And so I'm just saying that because as people are thinking about what they want to do, it's that openness. And yes, it might seem, because a lot of people say, well, I believe or I don't believe. And I had what someone else had said, it doesn't matter if you believe, it just does it. And it's there. Unless, of course, if you choose for it not to be there.
Right. Yeah. Then and that's where I think I don't believe, that's almost like I'm protecting myself from something that's making me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when we've experienced that it works.
Yeah.
So, you can believe or not believe, but
Yeah.
but that openness is just so important.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so as people are listening and they're thinking about their journey and how they've been doing things, and maybe they've been weaving in and out of things, they've dabbled in a lot of things, they put a lot of money into a lot of different directions or supplies, because we all do that because we like to play with toys. All of us.
Don't get me at a crystal show.
I know, when you go into places, you're like, I don't need anything, and then you come out with something.
Always. Always. Oh, except for this.
I walked out of a rock shop with a wand, a copper wand one time. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with this thing, but it picked me. And it was just like, yep, it has to come home with me. And, but those things happen as we're on that journey, right?
I have this rock. It's a green quartz, and it literally yelled at me in a gym show. I mean, I heard, get over here.
You skip all the others. This is the one.
It's just right here, right here. And I went right to it. It was like in this. Yeah. So yeah, that stuff happens.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So you've mentioned writing a little bit, and do you have another book on the horizon, or is that kind of sitting? Okay.
No, I to write a novel is a year of my life and all of my attention. And so I got to a place where it was like, I didn't really like the publishing industry, and I was very successful. I went out at the top kind of thing, but I just didn't have another book that I was, needed to write. I had sort of completed what I had set out to do. And that's when I was starting this journey, to what I'm doing now. So it's actually still supporting me. I still get money every month from my books because people are still reading them, which is awesome. The first one came out in 2002, and it still gets read every month. People around the world. It's awesome. So I love that part of it. I think I do want to write again, but I think it will be something more nonfiction. Because I think I could do that without it taking up everything I have to do it. Holding a whole story in your head with, like dozens of characters and sites, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to hear that because, for those of us who are not writers, especially writers of fiction, that's not something we would even think about. It's like, what just unfolds for you? No.
No, you have to craft it. And I love that part of it. The first draft I hated, but the rest of it was actually crafting the story, looking for where the plot wasn't working, or, I need to add some emotion here, whatever it was. That to me was the part. So, but first drafts were painful.
What's interesting is, as we've been talking, you really have approached the way that you're working with clients in a very similar way. And which is okay. Now this is going to sound kind of weird. So somebody's coming to you for the first time, but you already know what their journey is going to be. So like having set the plot, right?
Yes.
And so you know that journey process can be, if that's what they choose.
I was going to say it can be. Yeah.
That's what they choose. And so that also provides incredible insights, because I also think for those of us who do this work and we have one-on-one clients, we're not really seeing that overall arching plot. We're seeing, can I solve the sore shoulder today?
Right. Yes.
And then when they come to me next time and the back is sore or the shoulders come back, then I'll deal with that. But you actually really have a completely different vision that goes with what you're doing.
I would say it's not the plot, because that's what's happening to the person. It's the character arc, we call it. So it's the character growth arc. And Joseph Campbell talks about the hero's journey. And that's the journey that I want to take my clients on. And it's certainly the journey I've been on. And it's definitely the journey that I use. I use that framework to plot or to create my books. So yeah, so I love this insight. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're putting it all together for me. It's awesome.
Think about the hero's journey. And it's like, wow, I want to be on the hero's journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're thinking about, and we've both done a lot of work already, and you think, yeah, but I want to be on the hero's journey. I
Yeah.
want to be in the place where, I'm at that success piece at the end.
Yeah.
And
you
I
come
don't
home
think,
with the elixir.
yeah, yeah, because we're not thinking that when we're in pain and we can hardly move and our mood is so terrible and our relationships aren't good. We're not thinking about that.
Right.
And if somebody said to you, you're going on a hero's journey, you're like, yeah, right. I'm going to go do that pilgrimage where I walk for, weeks on end.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not appealing to me at all. But then if you start to see how that pathway unwinds and the gifts and the joy and
the wisdom,
the richness. Yeah.
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 Really cool.
I'm going to go rewrite all my descriptions of everything then. That's where I get my writing in now, emails and copy for websites. And
Oh, that's so
really,
true.
Really awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Oh, all right. So as we've now talked about where you are sitting with everything, where is it you're going to take it next? Now that you're going to go back and rewrite, is there a vision that you have for what's down the road for you?
That's something I've always had a hard time doing, honestly, as looking to the future. I've always been like right here. But and because I had a guest on my podcast this week who actually did a session for me during the podcast as a demonstration. I, for the first time, really got a visual of what I want. And really it is being of service, but it's doing healing work. It's doing this kind of speaking and interviews. It is holding big events, which is not something that is really in my wheelhouse, but I've been given visions over many years now of running it's not a conference, but a big retreat, kind of thing, where we're working with circles and we're doing, a lot of healing work during it and community building. I know that the world is changing, and I know that it's changing in a positive way. Doesn't feel like it, doesn't look like it, but I know this is what's happening. And I see my work in the future being part of that transition team, where we're going to need to help a lot of people sort of step into a different paradigm. And all the signs are saying this is coming quick. I used to think, well, I hope I'm alive to see it, but now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in the midst of it.
Yeah.
So everything that I've visioned for the future is really, it's lit up in white light. I mean, when I look at it, it's just like this white light around everything. It's very easy. I'm flowing through my days with joy, and I'm just able to help lots of people in several different ways, and it's just easy. Easy. Yeah. That's my vision for the future. But so
yeah. And again, for those people listening who are maybe at the first steps of the journey, but then to think about, is that, because as you've done that arc, is that the kind of journey they want to start to be a part of and start to think about not so much how can I solve fixing my sore shoulder, but how can I be a part of that global initiative that is bringing that change to the world? And we have lots of different groups are talking about the ways we need to change things, and the old is not working and we need to make it new. And all those groups are working. So it, depending on who's listening, what avenue they want to come through that, and then what collective group do they want to be a part of.
And the other piece of that I want to, I tell this to people all the time, clients mostly, but you don't actually have to go out and be an activist. If you just work on, and we haven't really talked about this, but as you clear blocks and as you heal things and as you shift your perspective about things, you're actually raising your baseline vibration. And that ripples out everywhere. As Michelle, I know you know this. But so just by doing that, you're helping your family or your neighbors or your dog. But it also then, because they get lifted up by it, then it ripples out further and they get lifted up. It's like that Pantene commercial. And two people did it and then two people did it. That's probably a really old ad reference there.
No,
But
that's okay.
but it's so, because I have people who are like, no, I'm not an activist. I don't want to be, like on the front line of anything. I just going to sit here and just be, meditate and be happy. And I'm like, good, do that. Because that is also part of lifting the baseline of everybody. And we are in such a low, heavy vibration energetically in this world right now. And so the best thing we can all do is just work on ourselves to lift ourselves up. And then if you're an activist, great, go do that. But if you're not, and I don't really see myself as an activist, even though I grew up in a very activist family, but just by helping other people feel better, I'm doing my part to lift the vibration, keeping my own vibration high, doing my part of keeping moving us into a more positive direction. So I know it can sound scary to go, you got to be involved in this. Well, you can sit in your comfortable chair, sip your tea and be happy. And that is also helping to go through this transition.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And you've got one of the things we learned from the World Tai Chi and Qigong Day, as it celebrated its 25th year, I think was the anniversary. But it, because everybody spends that one day at the same time, all working towards the same vision and raising that vibration, there's a huge shift that happens.
Yeah.
So as somebody sitting at home thinking, I don't want to be the activist, no, but you can engage and you can link in with all the people and be support for them, because they're going to need your energy to continue to do their outward work that they're doing.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And they are doing it. So they're already in place. So all you need to do is really be that support for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Which can be very simple. It doesn't require being on the front line. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay. How can people find you?
The easiest way is to go to my website. It's heartlightjoy.com. And I have my social links there. You can contact me. You can sign up for any of my offerings. If you want to get introduced to your guides, that's a great place to start. I am going to be running a sale on that in June, so you might want to watch out for that. If you sign up for my newsletter, you'll get a pop-up when you go to my website. If you sign up for my newsletter, you'll get a PDF from me that is Laurin's top 3 ways to communicate with your spirit guides. So it's just a little intro booklet kind of thing. But that's a really good place. If that's completely alien to you, then that's a good place to start. So my website has pretty much everything that is going on for me, and I am in the process of updating the verbiage on it. So if it doesn't quite flow, just give me a little bit of time and it'll be better. That's what editing is for. So.
That's right. That's right. That's awesome. And I always like to finish off with some movement-based activity. So if people have been sitting and listening to the podcast or driving, then what is something that they could do to bring everything that we just had a conversation about that reflects well with them and they want to get into flow with? What kind of activity would you typically do for movement?
For me, it's always getting out for a walk in the woods. Okay. Always. And sometimes I take my dog, then we have a slow walk. She's got to sniff everything. But I like to go and just wander the woods. And I live in a place where literally I can walk out the back door and be in the woods. But we also have beautiful parks in this area of Virginia. So that's my go-to. I need to move myself, but I want to stay in this sort of spiritual place, feeling, or I need to get myself there. If I've had a bad day or something's, rocked my foundation, I go and lean against a tree and talk to the tree for a while. So that's my go-to. I also lately have taken up line dancing, which I really enjoy. And it's a community event. It's a club here in my neighborhood. And so that's something that I'm finding bringing dancing back into my life, because I did a lot of dancing in my younger years. Not any, I did square dancing and that kind of stuff. It was nothing like ballerina, not me. But Yeah, so I like the idea of the solitude of the woods, but sometimes I want the community of the dance club,
Mm-hmm.
and so it
Mm-hmm.
kind of either way. During the pandemic, I would dance in my office here by myself,
Mm-hmm.
almost daily. you know? And that's how I moved when I really didn't feel like I could, especially in those early days, wasn't safe to go out of the house kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the ways I get the movement in my life, and I don't get enough of it. I need to. That's one of my things that I want to
I think
do.
all of us could confess to that as we spend more time at the computer or driving in a car.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
Those are
yeah, the woods are my friends. So that's always my first go-to.
yeah. Yeah. And mine has been, we've got an event coming up where we're interconnecting with plants, 4 different plants, and what their message is to us, and then we're going to paint them. And so I ended up with 2 bouquets of tulips this week that were gifted to me. And I had no idea how beautiful they smelled, because I always look at them in the garden. I actually don't pick them. And so then I realized they smell just as luscious as roses do. And so my idea from what I've experienced this week would be to connect in with a specific plant when you're out walking or you're in the garden and you're getting everything ready for the summer and you're doing the flower beds or the pots. And the second part would be try to move so that you've moved in all directions. So yes, you can get forward digging in the ground, but then consider turning sideways to get the pot and then bringing it back. And just ways that you can move from front to back, side to side, and up and down. And I know that's going to be a really weird description for people because they don't normally think of that. But when we engage all the dimensions, that really opens our perspective up. And that kind of gets crushed by the way that we're holding ourselves when we're driving or at our computer, because we're very forward facing. And so somebody was saying there was a thing about walking backwards, and you can walk backwards, but you also really need to know how to turn, and you also need to know how to come back to forward and go up and down. So I'm just going to plant that idea. So if you're out walking in the garden and you decide to do some things, think of the ways that you can move in all directions. And that's going to bring a whole body approach to what you're doing, but that changes the brain and it changes the filters. And so some new ideas might pop forward based on our conversation and all the things that came out for us.
I'm going to do that because yard work is on the agenda today. So I'll really be mindful about that.
You'll be thinking about it. That's right.
I will. Oh wait, I got to go up and down. I got to turn. I spend so much time facing this computer.
Yeah, exactly. So let's offer a toast to the listeners. There's a lot of wealth of knowledge in there and lot to filter through and think what is most important to me. So, look, we got a thumbs up for anybody that's
Zoom does that now.
Anybody that's on the podcast and couldn't see that, this giant thumb just popped up in the middle of the screen. So anyway, to you, Laurin, thank you so much for the conversation. And to those people that have been listening and following, thank you so much. And good luck filtering through all of the wisdom that came forward today.
Thanks so much, Michelle. This is awesome.
All right. So on behalf of the Be Well with Michelle Greenwell podcast, thank you so much for listening. And we wish you a very splendid day if you're going out in the garden, and also be well. Take care. Thank you for listening to Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell. There are a couple of resources I want to just point out. When you go to the website greenwellcenter.com, you'll have a pop-up window. That pop-up gives you the top 8 easy stress releasers that you can use every day. That's something you can put beside your computer, the bathroom mirror, beside the bedside table. A great resource. Also, my YouTube channel. It is full of playlists with all kinds of different ways that you can activate energy and bring vitality into your day. You can find that when you go to YouTube at Michelle Greenwell. And last, if you're a Linktree person, Linktree, tr.ee/Greenwell Center. That has all my resources in one spot. Those are for intricate little things that you can't get everywhere. And it's a wonderful way for me to be able to share all the different aspects of the kind of work I do. So thank you for listening. Be sure to drink that tea. And if you want to have the tea blend that was shared in the podcast today, then be sure to check out capebretontea.ca. Have a wonderful day.